proposed changes, and this is the carbon monoxide. Jonathan, I think that's what you was about to say. So the Smoke and Carbon Monoxide Act 2015 is due to be amended. So currently every single rented property must have a working smoke alarm installed on every floor of the property, and the landlord must ensure that it has been tested on the first day of tenancy. Carbon monoxide detectors currently are only required in rooms where there is solid fuel, so things such as an open fireplace and wood burners.
That's the time we say.
The changes that are being proposed are making it mandatory for all socially rented homes, so that the council homes will have to have smoke alarms, which I can't believe they were excluded in the first place, because if it's good enough for us, it should be good enough for everyone, especially if it's coming down to people's safety. The big change here is that carbon monoxide alarms will be mandatory in rooms where there is fixed combustion appliances such as a gas boiler or gas fire, but excluding gas cookers, and it's likely to come into force around October of this year. So what I'd suggest here is that you start getting those carbon monoxide detectors now, as it will avoid trying to get them, because when they bring this in and it's in black and white, everyone's going to be going to the shops buying carbon monoxide, and then there will be a supply issue. And the last,
it's already a supply issue, I'm afraid, Jane.
Is it?
Yeah, Toolstation already out of stock. I had to go to Amazon.
Screwfix.
If you want to buy anything in bulk, in terms of getting advantages of buying 2 or 3 or 4, in pairs, they're out of stock. The ones I was after.
I was looking yesterday and Screwfix had some, so maybe look there.
Yeah, I struggle with Screwfix's inventory management. They say they've got stuff, doesn't mean they've got it. They then don't deliver it. So just, yeah, it's a really valid point. Get them now while you get the chance.
Yeah, because the last thing you want to do is be falling foul of that and getting fined. So the EPCs, now there is so much talk on this, and unfortunately I still don't have definite news to give you, but obviously as soon as I do hear more, then I will send that out. But I will touch base on the speculated changes surrounding it. Oh. So the new EPC changes are likely to come into force from 2026, which is a year later than originally stated. It's likely to be that by April 2026, all new tenancies will need to be an EPC of a C or above. In my last webinar, I did a bit of research on this, and it came out that the average landlord has 2.8 properties which are with an EPC rating below a C, with the highest proportion being in East Midlands being 4.1, as we have a huge amount of old Victorian houses here. So there's going to be a lot of us that are going to be affected by this. It looks like they'll give us 2 years grace like they did before for when it rolls out to all lets, regardless of the start of tenancy. At the moment, there is a cap on improving a property to get it to the legal rental rating of an F of 3,500, meaning a landlord is expected to spend this amount. Expected to spend this amount to improve the property's energy efficiency rating. If it's not doable, then within this budget, you can apply for an exemption. Sad news is that this is likely to be increased to £10,000, and this will hit those landlords with a bigger portfolio the most and become very costly if their properties do not currently meet this rating. What I suggest here is that if you are falling into this category of below a C, look at what you can do now and look at what help is available. So as Joe says about the solar panels. But just be careful though, because if you start spending money and you can't get it to a C rating, you may not be able to offset that money from the 10,000 cap. So if you were starting to improve to try and get to a C, you spend nearly, say you spend 5,000 and it's looking like you're not able to get it to a C, spending another 5,000, then it's likely that they won't take that original 5,000 into consideration. They will start it again. So that will be another £10,000 you've got to spend to try and get it to a C. So just be wary of that. They're also stipulating that it will also affect mortgage rates. So in that, if your properties doesn't meet the criteria, anybody looking to buy a property will be paying a higher mortgage rate on the poorly efficient energy rated properties. So they're looking to make this relevant both to sales and lettings.
Is that across the board then, to both private owners and landlords?
To buy a property?
No, the higher mortgage rate.
As far as I'm aware, yeah.
I thought it was just buy to let, to be honest.
Did you?
I don't think it's all occupier mortgages yet. Could change, but
okay, because I heard they was bringing in those. They're looking at bringing in those house packs again. I heard that as well.
The home energy pack.
Yeah, so quite a few years ago, they brought in a home pack where the seller had to comply with energy rating and all of the little bits, and then they got rid of it but kept the, what did they keep? So,
keep the EPC.
EPC, yeah, of course. And then and they're looking at doing that something similar again, like that.
Okay. I think it's still early days, to be honest. I know they're trying to put dates, but they've just shifted it forward by a year.
Yeah.
They clearly don't know what they're doing, and they're clearly worried that it could, if done wrongly, it could have an absolutely calamitous effect on the rental sector. I'm trying to think of what words I could use without being rude. It could literally decimate. We think we've got short supply now. It could decimate the rental sector.
I think, and a lot of landlords are getting scared already and thinking, I need to sell this because it's coming in and there's not a chance I've got that money to spend on it. Yeah,
but what's the point? They sell it, an occupier buys it, doesn't improve it. That hasn't improved our housing stock in any way, shape or form. Yeah. And it's taken a property off the rental market, which was a perfectly good rental. So now the tenants have even less choice and have to pay even more for it. Yeah. So if you've got a 40% drop, as you reported earlier, in availability of stock, and if you take another 20% off that, you're left with no rental market at all if you don't watch out.
Yeah.
They can't. They're playing with fire. If they do that, it will, as I say, decimate. So there'll need to be exemptions. There'll need to be and there'll need to be more phasing, and we need to have an industry which can actually respond. And it needs to affect owner occupiers. Otherwise, it will just shift the problem onto occupiers, and they won't improve the housing stock any shape or form. So I know governments can do stupid things, but this would be beyond stupid.
I think the problem, though, is there's no coordination between any of the departments. So somebody thinks it's a great idea for, the future, if we all have EPCs a C, but then forget that, a lot of the stock is 1900s mid terraces that are being rented out, not your brand new ultra efficient properties. So there's no coordinated thinking amongst government departments. That's where most of the problem lies, I think.
Yeah, but by the time this becomes something concrete, the whole political landscape could have changed. We've got an election before then, so who knows what the departments are going to do. My suggestion, for what it's worth, Jane, if I may, would be get yourself ready, be aware, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily worth spending money at this stage because we haven't got anything concrete that we can actually work on.
Yeah, I think if you're due for an EPC and you go and get an EPC, and I know my EPC guy, he sort of says if there's something minimal like loft installation, he will suggest like getting that done to topping it up, or putting TRVs on radiators, just minimal stuff just to help budget up that little bit more. I think it's always worth spending that little bit money, but for your big things like your wall installation and things like that, I don't think that's worth.
Yeah, I completely agree. All that stuff, that's kind of things you would do anyway because it benefits tenants. But the bigger expenditures, I would say, let's just see watch and learn, and develop your relationships with your EPC assessors, because it's quite a subjective, it's not a very objective model, it's quite subjective. I've been surprised how you can tweak things if you talk to them nicely.
Yeah, well, there you go. And if anyone's dash, just to quickly add to that, if anyone's dash registered, I had a accreditation not long ago, and when they checked one of my houses, one of my houses, there's a loft room, but it's not classed as a bedroom. It was already built before I bought it, so there's no actual like latch into the roof, so to see where the insulation is. And even though my EPC was a D rating, and on the old EPC it had a lower insulation in there, they asked me to top it up to is it 250 mil?
270.
270. In my tenant was like, no, it's too hot in here as it is, like I don't want any more. And I questioned it anyway, and in the end they was like, yeah, no, it's fine, don't worry about it. They must have been I don't know what they said, but in the end they said don't worry about it, because my EPC was in the D criteria. So yeah, just be wary of that if you do get an accreditation and they do pull you up on that.
Dash have always been a bit of a loose cannon. Is there going to be some progression? It's not immediately to a C. I thought they were going to up it to a D first and then a C, and there was a timescale for that, a schedule.
Yeah, no, I've not heard anything going to a D.
You can't jump from minimum of an E to minimum of a C, and that makes no sense.
Yeah,
that's what they're projecting at the moment, from a C from, well, it was 2025.
Yeah, straight
now
to
it's 2020
for new tenancies.
For new tenancies, and 2 years for existing.
I know it doesn't help being angry, but that's insane. You know, it's worse than it's hard enough to take a property up one grade, but taking your range of E's up to C's in one jump is just nonsense. It's ridiculous.
The EPC format also needs revising, because it doesn't take account a lot of the newer technology. So one of my properties, I've put the insulated graphite paper on it, and it's perfectly fine. It's very well insulated now. Previous tenants had black mold, current tenants no black mold, so it is working. But the EPC form doesn't allow for graphite to be noted on the form, so you get no sort of points for having the graphite paper on there.
Yeah,
there are huge anomalies in the model. Sorry,
I've heard a few people mention that a few times, with the current report doesn't allow for certain things that actually does improve the EPC or the energy, but it's not on the form to give.
The model's very blunt. It's a very dumb model. It's a dumbed down version of a very sophisticated model. And it tends to ignore, as Joe says, modern technology. I think there's an opportunity here. I don't want to dominate, but there's an opportunity here to perhaps have a wider discussion about EPCs. But when we've got something concrete, there's a number of EPCs assessors that have approached me and said, do you want us to talk about how to get your property up and what steps you can take and what makes a difference and what doesn't? I think that's an opportunity for us to do some webinars around that when we've got something concrete.
Yeah, but I think it was my last one. I think I had my EPC guy on to speak about the EPCs, which was quite useful. But yeah, I think definitely once we've got more information and definites, it's best to get them back on again.